Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the program. My name is New York Nick, and this is New York Nick Live. And I know a lot of you guys were anticipating, the show tonight. I got a special guest on tonight, and he's one of my favorite musicians out there. And I'm a little nervous talking to him because, this guy is big. This guy is big, people. Now, y'all know him, and I'm going to just bring him right on, and let's get to it. We're gonna have some fun tonight. I did have some prepared text, and I just threw everything out the window. I'm going to kind of wing this thing tonight, just kind of hang out with Joel Hoekstra, ladies and gentlemen. And we're just going to chill out, and just talk some rock and what's going on. Let's bring him on. I'm just going to bring him on right now, ladies and gentlemen. Joel Hoekstra, he's in the house. What's up, Joel?
How's it going, Nick? Thanks for having me on, man.
Oh, man. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you bopping on here. I know you got a busy schedule. You got a lot of things going on. And here's the situation right now. This is how I feel about you. Okay? Seriously. With all your successes and everything you've done in your career, you have to be the most humbled individual in the rock business. How can you do this?
Desperation.
What do you mean desperation?
No, I don't know, man. It's just, I think it's because a lot of it came to me later in life. So I think I went through a lot of years of struggling and really earned it. So I think that's probably, it has a lot to do with it.
Yeah. Well, what advice would you give to the up and coming rock star that, to keep their ego in check? A lot of these guys get, out of control and,
Well,
what did you do?
I guess to be professional about it, just try and break it down to what you're doing, and I don't know, realize there's a lot of people working harder than musicians out there in the world, right? So
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it comes down to like a daily thing, right? I always say that even with just like the music business in general or life in general, you got to kind of break it down to smaller increments, right? So if you try to just say, this is what I'm going to think for the rest of my life, that's not really how you're going to be able to do it. You got to think about it like, how am I going to think today, right? So I try to remind myself every day, have a little check-in time to remind myself the world's not revolving around me, and
Right.
so there's a lot bigger things happening in my life or anything that we're going to talk about here, which is just simply guitar playing or whatever,
Yeah.
playing in bands and stuff. So I guess that, man, I mean, who knows, dude? We all have our moments, of probably of feeling like we're the star of our own shows and all that stuff. But I mean, at the same time, it doesn't really benefit, I guess, people to have that mentality. So I try to think about what's the smartest and how can I stay afloat the longest. And like I said, the desperation thing. See, never
Right.
underestimate desperation.
Yeah. No, I get it. So about rock bands that are trying to break into the business, and we'll talk about. I'm going from the back forward instead of the basic questions. Oh, when did you start playing guitar? And when did you, so I'm going from the back forward. So I'm getting right to the grit right away on this. And rock bands just trying to break into the scene now. What is the key to getting on tour and to getting noticed and, just trying to get yourself out there, and because it's tough. It's not an easy situation. Getting your music heard, and that's what I do. This is what I like to do. I like to advocate for the original artist. I've been doing it for many years here in Atlanta. I play their music, I promote their music, I book their music, and I'm an advocate for the original artist. What do they have to do to really? I mean, it's not an easy task.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a musician, it's important to get to remain open-minded about what you're going to do, and look at the positives you can get out of situations more than the negatives. So let's say, for instance, let's say one of them had an opportunity to also play cover songs in a band, right? And I don't want to be in a cover band. I want to just work on my own music. Well, maybe you need to think about like what are the positives that can come out of being in the cover band, and you're getting paid to get better and have the opportunity to get new fans for your original music, and
Right.
so as long as you keep your eye on the ball in terms of where you want to end up, which should happen inevitably for people because people have goals that they want, and as long as you know it's not going to kill your goals, I think it's nice to remain open-minded and let life guide you. That's what I've done with music in general. I've never really had a very specific goal. I never really said I wanted to be like a recording artist per se, or have there's been times I've had my own band and released my own albums and things like that, but I've just done a lot of different stuff, and I've seen what took off for me, and I've ended up in situations that I've never thought I would have been in. For instance, the two that I always cite to people are playing in Rock of Ages on Broadway for over 6 years,
Right.
which really changed my whole life, like financially, man. I was always kind of like the struggling guy up until I had those 6 years, because gave me the ability to take off from that job whenever I needed to keep play with Night Ranger or play with Trans-Siberian Orchestra. So that gave me 3 gigs to juggle for 6 years, basically. Changed my life. All of a sudden I had money in the bank, and I wasn't like the guy like struggling to pay his bills. And so, while it was never my dream, like when I was sitting around with my guitar when I was a young kid going, someday I'm going to be on Broadway. And that, I mean, no kid sets out learning Black Sabbath songs thinking that, right?
Right.
But it ended up being like a great thing in my life, and like a positive occurrence, and something that changed my life for the better. So again, that's just what's worked for me. It's not to say that's the plan for anybody else, but I've just tried to remain open-minded and try and always, every situation, try and look at what's good about it rather than what's bad, because there's going to be something bad about basically every situation you're ever going to be in. If you just constantly focus on that, it's going to drive you nuts, right?
Right.
So there you go.
So what was your big breakthrough for you going back?
Never really had like a single one. It was just like this series of baby steps that just kind of, hopefully is still going, if the world ever returns to normal.
We'll get to that.
But just the baby step thing is just kind of, and then just staying busy, like work creates work. I went from being like a local kid, going out to GIT, which was a step up because I met new people, going to Hollywood, working at a studio there, going back to Chicago, playing in my own band and teaching 70 students a week, which I had never taken on that kind of roster. And I did that for a very long time. And kind of the quality of the gigs I did got better and better as I was in the Chicago area doing that, and then going to New York and taking on a theater gig called Love Janis. That was a show about Janis Joplin, and that became when I first only was gigging, and then playing with oldies bands that sort of taught me the ropes in terms of fly dates and touring, playing with the Turtles and Big Brother and the Holding Company. A lot of people don't know I did these gigs, but I did. I actually played bass for the Turtles. That's like how much I kind of, but again, I could have been, a lot of people would have moaned about that. Like, man, I can shred. I'm playing bass in this band, and I thought it was the greatest thing in the world because I was like, I was getting paid to go out and travel, and like I looked at all the cool things about it. Like, hey, man, this is great. I'm getting good money to go out and play in a band that has famous songs, from the '60s, but who cares? It's very cool. Like, I love the guys, and we had a good time, and that's just the way I've tried to approach all these baby steps. So that the Turtles led to. Eventually, Jim Peterick's World Stage led to Night Ranger for me, and also Scrap Metal. All those things kind of led into Night Ranger, and Rock of Ages kind of came from playing pit music in New York City, like subbing in the pit stuff and getting that gig from there. And Trans-Siberian Orchestra really kind of came from more or less doing Rock of Ages, oddly enough. Really both of those, having Night Ranger and Rock of Ages. And but it was really me being on America's Got Talent that got me the TSO audition or a second look. I think they kind of checked me out and was like, no, because I didn't go crazy in my audition. And then I think once they saw this clip of me on America's Got Talent, I got another look, and then it ended up getting the gig. And so all these things feed each other, right? And then I think really Whitesnake, I don't think I would have been able to join Whitesnake had I not been in Night Ranger. I don't know if David Coverdale would have said, we want the guitar player from Rock of Ages.
Right.
I mean, maybe, but I doubt it, right? He probably wanted somebody from a band in the scene. And So all these things just kind of fed each other. And eventually, you end up like Cher. Cher was really from reaching out to people that I got to know through the years and being respected. But Justin Derrico from Pink is really who got me in subbing there, and that was uh, really meeting him and spending a little.
Oh, I lost you there for a second. Oh, hold on. Reconnecting. Sorry, Joel. There was a reconnect there. I got the
Yeah,
best Wi-Fi in the world. I don't know what happened there.
I tried to be near to my modem too, so hopefully it's not
Right.
me. I tried for the best I could do in my apartment for
No,
you.
I get it. So you're in New York.
Yeah,
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 that's
yeah.
cool. So besides the great album Flesh and Blood, which you co-wrote 6 songs on this album, what's your thoughts of the state of rock and roll right now?
Well, I mean, right now,
No,
it's
I'm not talking about right this very second. I'm talking when if it ever goes back to normal, that remains to be seen. It's kind of depressing. I don't even want to go there, but I miss my shows. You know.
yeah, man. Well, I mean, I think it's important to address it because some of the
Okay, then we
some
will.
what's some of what's being discussed right now, man. I don't know. Maybe we as a public need to push back a little bit because it's kind of
So, what is your
it.
thoughts then? Let's go there. Let's go.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of it's a lot to wrap your head around the 18 months thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm no scientist stating the obvious and no
Right,
doctor, but it would seem that after a point, I mean, I understand the lockdown and trying to, especially in New York City, keep the hospitals from being overrun and the early going and everything like that.
right,
But at some point, I think, like most viruses, and also I don't know specifically if this can be reacquired,
right.
so I'll preface it with that. But I mean, it would seem that maybe the herd immunity at some point is probably a decent idea, right? I don't
Yeah,
know. I honestly don't know. So I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for that, but it's once we're past the initial crazy point of the hospitals being overrun and everything like that,
right.
when do we get a point like where we're going to take a look at
Open
that? I
it
guess
up. You know. Yeah,
because at a point it's just going to bankrupt the industry, and I'm kind of obviously concerned that just large gatherings in general not having anything like that. Well, let's go to even sporting events and everything. What that could eventually do long range to the entertainment industry or the
right.
economy. And so I mean I'm concerned about all these things like everybody else, and I don't want to say I am no expert and don't know the right thing to do, but there's a lot of concern there for sure. The 18-month thing is hard to wrap my head
Yeah,
around for sure.
man, that's a long time. I was reading an article today. I think it was Blabbermouth that put it together about not being any live shows till 2021 in
Well,
the arenas.
fall of
Yeah,
2021
yeah,
at the earliest was the
yeah.
quote. Yeah.
I mean,
So
that's
yeah, I mean that was the I think the special advisor to the director of the WHO or whatever. So who had that quote from the New York Times basically. So
scary
uh,
times. Scary times for sure. I mean, for
yeah, man. I
everybody.
mean, I guess at the end of the day, we got no choice but to try and be productive. Here we are, we're talking, and
Right.
we're trying to keep ourselves out there and in the eyes of the business
Relevance.
and everything
Yes.
like that, and that's totally cool. So, but obviously, it's gonna be concerning if it's like an 18-month hiatus for
Yeah.
everybody.
I mean, I really don't know what to think about it myself. With people are dying, people are getting sick. It seems to be spreading fast. If we open up and stop the quarantine too soon, it might relapse itself, and more people may end up getting hurt. Most people, from what I'm reading, I don't know who to believe anymore in the media. It's the older folks, people that have sicknesses and stuff like that are really being affected by this. So it's scary, and it sucks actually. So I
Yeah.
mean, bottom line, it really does. So getting back to the rock and talking music. I first saw you Trans Siberian. I try to do that as a ritual. Actually, since I went to the show and you kind of killed it. And I was like, man, this guy is great. I got to go see this every year and make it a ritual. And for the last 6 or 7 years, 5 years maybe, I've been going to the shows, and that's where I was first turned on to Joel Hoekstra. To be honest with you, I didn't know your background, with Night Ranger, which was probably awesome too. But yeah, man, I really dig the Christmas time when you come to town, man, here in Atlanta.
Oh, thank you so much, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm blessed to be a part of TSO for the time I've been with them. It's just a phenomenal production that I mean,
Phenomenal.
to be able to step foot on that stage is always something special. Just because, I mean, I could probably be a grandma in a rocking chair and look like a huge rock star up there with that light show and all the pyro and lasers, and I mean, it's something else, man. It's a spectacle. So. I'm honored to be a part of it. Really, all the gigs I've had are all like a guy coming from the suburbs of Chicago.
Right.
I don't know that necessarily if I'm supposed to be doing any of this, dude. So I kind of.
How did you wrap that around your head? A Christmas show type thing. How did you? I mean, how did you? Wrap that around your head that you're going to actually go out and do Christmas songs and do a Christmas show. I mean, that's, being a rock star. I mean, come on, you're the epitome of the rock star. I mean, you look up in the dictionary rock star and there you are. And you're doing a Christmas show. Where did that go? How did you get there?
Well, that was really Alex Skolnick needed to take a year off, and they needed somebody, and a couple of people in the band recommended me. And I auditioned with Al Petrelli and at that time the casting director for the band, and it went pretty well. But the video, I think they took of me. Like I said, I think I'm one of those guys that needs the stage to throw the shapes and do the moves.
Gotcha.
Dude, you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
and
absolutely.
I can't get inspired at like a rehearsal hall like without anybody watching me. It's like with just like at that time it wasn't even smartphones. This is back when it was like a flip cam or whatever.
Right. No, I get it.
Video of me, and it was like I feel really stupid trying to like act like a rock star in here right now because I was playing by myself, and so I just didn't do that. And then
I can see that.
and then when I was on America's Got Talent, that really helped me a lot. The Rock of Ages went on there as a musical guest, and then I think I passed that along actually as an afterthought because I thought, all right, I didn't get that gig, but I'm just going to send this to the casting director just in case. And it turned out that led to me getting another audition and getting the gig. So it's amazing how these little, sometimes second pushes
set you
make
up.
all the difference.
Yep.
I have really the same story with Whitesnake, man. I mean, I kind of, when Doug left the band, I sent a bunch of stuff to Reb Beach and was like, hey, dude, let's do this. Like, get me in there, get me an audition. And so I sent him all the stuff, and I think he passed it on to David, but I don't think, David might have watched like a clip or two of like something that maybe just wasn't his kind of song, rather than, now in retrospect, I probably should have videotaped myself playing Whitesnake songs for him, right? That would have been the smart move, but I just kind of did like pre-existing videos and thought, well, this will get me an audition, and then I can show that I can play the Whitesnake stuff. But anyway, I didn't hear anything at first. And then I thought, well, come on now. Who do I know that knows David that can get me an audition? I happened to think of Phil Carson, who manages Foreigner and Dee Snider. And I had filled in for Mick Jones and Foreigner.
We're going to talk about that. I want to hear about that.
Yeah, so Phil and I knew each other. So I kind of called in the favor from Phil. And then when Phil emailed David about it, that got me the audition. And so
awesome.
And that was like maybe even a couple weeks after the videos had been sent, of like me at that point going, all right, I didn't get even an audition.
Right.
And I think it was almost a matter of pride at a point. I'm like, you're going to tell me I can't get an audition? I'm like, come on, man. So I just kind of persisted. So sometimes that persistence really.
Oh yeah, you gotta get yourself out there, and you gotta have the confidence. You gotta have a little bit of cockiness to you, and just say, I can do this. And hell yeah, man. So tell me about the 6 songs that you co-wrote with David. Gonna Be All Right, Trouble Is Your Middle Name. Well, I Never, After All. Let's start with Gonna Be All Right. Tell me about that song real quick. We won't go through all of them. Was it you want to stand out?
That's super cool, because that was an idea he had for a follow-up to the Coverdale Page record. So he really had Jimmy Page in mind with that riff.
Oh, seriously?
So, yeah. So he had to take a serious downgrade to finish it with me.
Somehow Come on, man. Man, you are the most. I'm good at my original. You are the most humble guy. I just love that. I mean, it's awesome.
He had to go from Jimmy Page to Joel Hoekstra. But no, no. I mean, so that was the story with that one, which is super cool. And obviously, I'm very humbled, and I'm honored to write with David in any capacity. Whatever he has in mind for me and Whitesnake works for me, man. But that was the story with that one. After All was the first thing we ever did together. We did that for what was going to be Unzipped, the acoustic box set. And then I think he liked it so much, he just thought, I'm going to save that for the album.
Right.
There was one other that we did that was kind of along the same vein. That
If I Could Have You, Gonna Be All Right.
No. It's not on Flesh and Blood.
Oh, okay.
There's another song that we did like that at that time.
Okay, I got you.
Good Story is Trouble Is Your Middle Name was during the Unzipped stuff where I was doing some tracking for David of the hits, and we were working on After All. And then at some point we were just so sick of listening to acoustic guitar, we plugged in a Les Paul, and I started coming up with some riffs, and I played the riffs for Trouble's Your Middle Name. And we ended up coming up with that during an acoustic session. So, I mean, that's what's funny is but eventually plugging in a Les Paul just because there was only so long we could stand to hear just acoustic. And that was the first electric song that him and I got to write together, or that I got to write with him, however you want to word it. But gosh, from there, a lot of the ideas start with David, and then I would just sort of like build them out. And that was really the way we had our best groove, because that way I knew it was an idea that he liked and it wasn't going to totally get shelved. Like if I if I handed up a bunch of riffs and said, David, come up with something to that, and well, maybe it never gets played. Maybe if he played it, maybe he doesn't come up with something the first time, and then it just never gets listened to again. Who knows? So for me, the best opportunity came in terms of working with David on writing was if he would have something like a chorus and say, where would you go with that? Because he only has this much. That for me was a great opportunity then to sit, and it was also cool because it just felt like really two people writing together, not like emailing riffs to each other or something. And it was cool to put it together with him on the spot. All that stuff kind of happens at the band house around his desk. He's got a desk up there, like kind of almost an office type area that we just would sit. There are little amps and electric guitars there too, but we tend to just pick up acoustics. David always writes on this little nylon string, which is really kind of amazing. He's written so many of the songs he's written on this little, it's not even a full-scale nylon string guitar.
Oh, seriously? Wow.
Yeah, and that's what he sits and writes on all the time.
He's an awesome guy, though.
Yeah, he's a lot better on guitar than people realize. He can actually really, it was shocking to me. I just thought like, okay, David doesn't really play guitar, right? I didn't really know coming into the band, so it was cool to see.
So how's all the camaraderie? Like, how's it working with David? I obviously it's
awesome, man. Totally awesome. I think that like some people, I guess in this business, some people click better than others. I would say that we click really well. I got nothing but great things to say about him, and I owe him a lot for all the great experiences he's given me in Whitesnake, and hopefully that's not to put it totally in the past.
How's working with Tommy?
Hopefully,
they're all badasses. You're all badasses, man. I'm serious, man. It's great seeing you guys up there.
What's not to like about working with Tommy? He's awesome. So he's a powerhouse back there. He brings a lot of energy, a lot of heaviness, a lot of amazing showmanship. He's just a lot of that stuff is harder than people realize, I think, sometimes. I mean, he's up there throwing his head around like he's Animal from the Muppets while he's got the hair,
He's amazing.
Somebody said his hair needs its own Twitter account.
Yeah, probably. Was it 2018 when Foreigner and Jason Bonham, friend of mine, Chris Presta, he knows Chris Frazier, Foreigner. Got us backstage, and I got to stand next to the stage there and watch you perform there with Whitesnake and Jason Bonham. That was 18, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was 18.
Yeah. That was a great show. That hold. We saw you guys twice that year. We saw you here in Atlanta, and we saw you in Charlotte. Chris was like, "Why don't you come to Charlotte, man? It's only a 3-hour drive." So we came up to Charlotte. That was very cool. Anyway, so tell me about Cher, working with Cher. I mean, she's an icon. I mean, she is an absolute ball of energy. I mean, awesome. Tell me about working with her.
Yeah, I mean, great opportunity. One of those things like Rock of Ages that's out of left field. Like that, I never in my life would have thought when I was sitting around playing Black Sabbath riffs when I was a kid, going, someday I'm going to play guitar for Cher. I probably would have thought, somehow that doesn't sound right, but a fantastic time, great people in the band, great musicians, and great opportunity to work with somebody like you said that's an icon and very
Right.
recognizable, and it's somebody your parents can brag to their friends about that you work with, right? If their friends don't know who Whitesnake is, the parents can say, "Well, my son plays guitar for Cher," and then they go, "Oh, that's so cool! Wow." Uh, no, I don't know, man. It's a great opportunity. Great to have any of those playing opportunities is a wonderful thing.
Well, listen, I want to. I got a couple of big fans of yours out there, and how would you feel if we took a couple of calls? Are you good with that? Just
Yeah, oh, of course, man.
okay, cool. All right, so Chris, Tony, there's a young lady that had a question. She just sent me a message, and let me see. Let me pull it up here. Anybody want to call in and ask Joel a question? He's game. He's in for it. Really appreciate Joel taking some time. It's not like we have a lot to do right now. We're all just hunkering down and just kind of just. So tell me, what are you doing in your spare time while I'm finding that question? What are you doing right now?
I'm working on the follow up to my record I put out in 2015 with my rock side project, which is called Joel Hoekstra's 13. And the album was Dying to Live in 2015. So I'm working on the follow up to that. And it's got a great lineup. It's Vinny Appice on drums and Tony Franklin on
Oh,
bass.
nice.
Russell Allen singing on it. Derek Sherinian did all the keyboards, and Jeff Scott Soto is helping me out singing backgrounds on it too, which is amazing of him, as he's totally overqualified.
New York Nick Live. Hold on one second, please. Go ahead. Finish your statement there.
Yeah, so there
Sure.
you go, man. Just working on that record right now, doing sessions for people, Skype lessons, staying busy, doing interviews and whatever, man. You know.
Yeah, I saw you doing some. I follow your Twitter. I look at your Twitter every day. I love it. No politics, straight music, fans. You're giving back here tonight to entertain our fans on Facebook. I mean, it's great. You're doing a great thing with your life. Seriously, I really
Oh,
appreciate what you do, man. I'm trying to
thanks, man.
find out one question before we take this call. She had a
Hello?
question. Her name is Lauren Bell. Hey, can you turn back? Can you turn down that music in the background, please?
Sure, it's just you guys.
Okay. Oh, okay. Great. Yeah, it's starting to
Okay,
bleed over. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I
no
got a
problem.
question here from Lauren Bell. It's a guitar question. The question is, if a player is having trouble stretching their fingers for certain chords or parts of the riffs without having pain in their wrist, what advice would you give that guitar player?
Well, it's hard to be totally specific about that because sometimes that pain is you're just building up strength. It's like when you remember when you're a kid and you're writing with a pencil and your hand is just completely sore. Well, you're literally just building up the muscles in your hand. So sometimes just getting your wrist in the position where you're getting your hand out in front of the guitar and getting your wrist bent is just building up the strength in your wrist. It's not always actually physically hurting your wrist. Sometimes you're just making it stronger.
Right.
But it could be something that you're damaging the tendons in there as well. So it's hard to be totally specific about that. But the thing is to try and get your
Hello?
hand as much out in
Stand by.
front. And if your posture is hurting you, if the guitar is too low, just raise the guitar up a little bit, or try and get the neck angled enough that you can obviously get your hand out in front. But sometimes it's just building up strength, so you can't freak out just because it's sore. Guitar just kind of hurts in general.
Right. I got you. I got you. There you go, Lauren. I hope that answered your question. Who do I have on the line? Thanks for calling in. This is New York
Who,
Nick.
me?
Yes, you.
Hi. I just called to say hi, Joel. This is Debbie from Ohio, and I was wondering when your new album's coming out because we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. So, waiting on
Yeah,
vocals and
I
this and that.
I
So,
know. Sorry, it's all
when's it
really
coming
been held
out?
up. It's the other guy's fault, not mine. I've been waiting on
Are you
other
laughing
people.
at me?
But no, I don't really have a release date, seriously, at this point.
Ah,
I'm just trying to hopefully this year though, because I'm trying to get it wrapped up here pretty quickly. I'm hoping to have it wrapped up in like a few weeks and be able to turn it in and get everything situated. But I don't have a release date for you. Sorry.
Sorry, we don't have a release date. Did you hear that, hon?
Yeah, I heard. Boo
Well,
hoo.
thank you for calling in. I appreciate it.
No problem. Tell Joe I said hi.
Oh, he's hearing you. He hears you loud and clear.
I'm
Thank you,
his
hon.
biggest fan, Debbie from
Oh, no,
Ohio.
I am.
No, I am. See you later.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye. So, Joel,
Yeah, man.
David, unfortunate, is getting that little hernia operation there and kind of put things on hold, which is, I mean, in my eyes, pretty good timing since things are on hold right now. Come back soon.
Right. It looks like everything was going to be canceled anyway. So, I mean, the way things are looking. So, hey, yeah, if that's the case, then maybe it's a blessing in disguise that this didn't come up on us when we are back to it. And hopefully David will want to get back to it. I mean, we really haven't talked about anything like that right now. It's so
Right.
far ahead of the game. I think everybody's just trying to figure out what's up. But, he hasn't given us any indication that that's it. So I like hopefully we'll still be moving forward and touring.
So was he like a sports player, like an athlete? Was he getting out there injured, and now this is a good spot for him to take care of what he has to take care of? Do you know if he was having an issue before?
I think from what he told me that it might have been aggravated earlier in the year with the shows with the Scorps. I think I'm not 100% on that, so I don't know if anybody should necessarily take that quote and run with it, but I think that's what he had mentioned to me. We had a conversation about a lot of the things when he told me that he needed the surgery, and when things fly by you that are big bits of info, it's hard to retain everything. But I'm pretty sure he told me that he was having some difficulty with it, with the shows with the Scorps, and we did Australia and Indonesia and Singapore together, and I think maybe so somewhere in there, I think it was aggravated.
Got that guitar sitting by?
I don't, man.
Okay, no, it's cool. I had somebody just say, "Does he have his guitar?" And I was like, "We're just talking." Joel, I really appreciate it. So we're gonna go back now. We're gonna go back to the beginning questions.
Okay.
How old were you when you started realizing you wanted to be a musician?
11. My parents had me at it with classical way before that, with cello and piano. And then once I saw and heard AC/DC, Angus Young in particular, that was really what made me want to get a guitar and get on there. And I had a great teacher who taught me like nothing but rock songs in the early going. And I was just addicted, man. I mean, I just was doing it hours and hours a day. So I like to think that was really the last career decision I had to make in a lot of ways in my life.
Right.
Yeah.
So the parents supported the guitar.
Yeah, I think they probably thought I was going to be more like Segovia when I came to them and asked to get a guitar. I don't think they realized where I was headed with it, that I was looking at Angus Young and not Segovia. But it all worked out in the end. I think they're reasonably happy with some of the things that have gone down. And I'm sure they probably would have preferred if I became a virtuoso classical guitar player. But
Right.
I studied classical guitar a bit and did okay with it. It wasn't my true love in the end. I do enjoy like being able to play those styles a bit, but definitely rock that's what I fell in love with as a kid. So
First organized band. How old were you?
full band, 15, first gigs and everything. Yeah,
Cover band or original music?
both. So we would cover. We covered mainly like Dokken. We did a lot of Dokken songs, I remember. And I think, forget what else, honestly, that we covered. But we had our originals. In fact, on this break, I think you saw I was maybe digitizing some of if you've been following the Twitter.
Yep, sure have.
Digitizing the old cassettes.
Yep,
And
saw that.
so I had myself all the way back in the studio with that band when I was 15 years old, recording the original songs that we had at the time, probably the first two full songs I wrote in my life. And they're pretty horrible, but I was only 15, so.
Question. I know you might hate this one. Tribute bands. What's your thoughts about that? I have a buddy. Reason why I have a buddy, he's got a tribute band, and it's called Rock Snake. Tony Baker, he's online watching WROCK Snake. I mean, he idolizes your playing. I'm just saying.
I mean, I think any opportunity to make a living in music and have an opportunity doing that is good. I would never have anything negative to say about tribute bands. I don't know. I mean, I say more power to everybody being able to get out and make a living and live their dream to whatever degree they can with it. You know, I think you got to look at all the positives with these things, right?
Right.
So, I mean, him being out with a tribute band, that's awesome, I think.
Coolest moment in your career?
Oh man, it's too many, man. I don't know if I
Come
can
on,
give
you
you
got to
one.
give me one. Coolest moment. Because, look, man, you played with the Turtles, Scrap Metal, Dee Snider, Brandon Gibbs, all these artists, Joan Jett, Tommy Shaw. You got to give me the coolest moment in your life, that working with all these recording artists and Broadway. And I mean, you have a resume that's just so awesome.
I don't know, man. It's really hard to say or to answer that in all honesty, because it's just kind of felt like this series of, and I've had a lot of really, really cool moments. So I guess it would depend too on like what the definition of, like, is it celebrity? Is it like the musicality of it? Is it the you know, like there's all these elements to what could create the coolest moment. It's really impossible to answer, man. I hate to deny you an answer on that, but I
No,
just don't.
that means you've had many great experiences in your life, and that's a beautiful thing. There's a lot of people that wish they could be in that spot. I'm not saying anything about that person, but I'm just saying it's an awesome thing. All right, so you're sitting around right now, you're quarantined, you're talking to New York Nick, you don't know this guy from hell, and you're talking to all these fans out here right now, and you're done, and now you just want to chill out, and you got your iPod on. What are you listening to?
Man, all I ever listen to is the music I'm working on. So as soon as we're done, I'm gonna go set up and I'm gonna get myself going on the album and just basically right now while I'm at home and I have the whole family at home all day because the kids are out of school and my wife's out of work right now too. So it's basically like the whole family all day, and then once everybody goes to bed, it's time for me to get some music work done. So that's really only about like 3-4 hours a day right now for me to get that opportunity. So I'll work on the record that amount of time every night for the unforeseeable future, and yeah, or a session or whatever I can do, like the interviews, just to stay focused and stay out there. But yeah, in terms of like, hey man, let's listen to some stuff. I mean, I'll tell you what I'm listening to when people ask me, and that's like the soundtrack to Frozen 2, because my daughter is singing it all the time. So that's
You
what
were
I'm
gonna
listening
say
to right
that.
now. If anybody wants to know what are you listening to, and that's not by choice necessarily, but it's what I'm listening to.
I'm going backwards here, but I still want to hear your experience filling in for Mick in Florida. How did that come about?
Yeah, I think that was because Phil Carson, their manager, had come to Rock of Ages because he also managed Dee Snider, who was a part of the show. So Phil and I had met there, and he had seen me play a couple Foreigner songs in the show Rock of Ages. So I think when that tour was out, then it was Night Ranger, Foreigner, Journey, right? And
Right,
so
right.
we were out for a while, and then Mick got sick, and basically Phil needed somebody to fill in. So there I was, and he thought, well, this guy's already knows a couple of the Foreigner songs, and so he's already out on the tour. We don't need to fly somebody in. Let's get him to learn the set real quick. So it was very last minute. I learned the set in a day, and went on with them the next day. It was like a total panic, but great opportunity. Obviously, like an honor to fill in for Mick, who's a legend. You know,
Amazing.
what a musical career. No, what a songwriter. So obviously, an awesome opportunity to get to do that, and just another great story. You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
as I said, it's a lot of moments.
There's too many of them. Chris Presta, a good friend of mine, he just sent me a text. He wanted to know who you would love to play with that you haven't yet, if you had the opportunity.
So my answer to that is always just anybody who's positive minded and is talented. Like I like, obviously the talent thing is awesome, but I like people that have like the positive attitude because they kind of
Right.
keep your attitude positive in the process. So, uh, yeah, there you go, man. That's my answer, and very general, I know, but you can never. It's always better to keep it like I'm doing than to get too specific, right? If I have one person that I'm dying to play with, and I focus on that the whole time, that one thing might never happen. You got to just be a little more broad and give things a chance to happen, because sometimes you get these unexpected beautiful things like the Broadway thing and like the Cher thing, right? Things that you never would have thought in your life you'd be doing, but then you end up having a great time. And so stay open minded to these opportunities. And so
Young
yeah.
lady just asked, wanted to hear about your family, and I don't know if you want to get on that, about your kids and
Not a ton. I mean, I try and keep it separate because I don't really want.
yeah.
They're kids,
Yep,
like
yep, yep.
I don't really do the putting my kids on social media thing. I don't think it's necessarily right or the right thing to do with them. And
I agree.
so, I mean, I try and keep that stuff now I'm not like, crazy about it, but at the same time, it's nothing that I like to do necessarily to, keep them just living like normal lives as kids.
So what's up next? You're gonna go work on the music, huh?
Yep, that's it, man.
Writing songs, putting it
No,
together.
I'm laying down the rhythms, man. And so I'm basically on all the basic rhythms on all these songs, quadrupling them and making them. I have 4 passes of me playing it as tight as possible. So basically, just doing like a song or two a night of that, and making sure that they're super super tight. And then once the rhythms are all down, then I'll work on the leads and get those happening. And still waiting on a few tracks from Russell Allen, the singer, and Jeff Scott Soto's kind of waiting on him to finish those to be able to sing on them. But there you go. But I have all the keys, all the drums, all the bass,
Nice.
so we're getting close, man. It's going to be like,
Awesome.
it's not far off.
Before you go, and anything you want to say to your fans out there. I mean, coming from Joel, ladies and gentlemen, this is your goodbye. I don't want to
Yeah.
keep you anymore. We've been on 40 minutes, and I know you're.
Oh, it's all good, man. I appreciate your time, but no, just thank you. Obviously it's like an awesome thing if anybody comes to a concert or buys a CD or whatever, even streams you or says hello on social media. All that stuff's great, and appreciate all the support and good words along the way. It's nice to counterbalance the hate on certain forums.
No,
So,
I understand.
yeah, so it's nice to have the people saying the good things, and then they say, "I know you're probably sick of hearing this," and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? No, I'll take that any day over some of the stuff I read about myself online." So, uh, it's always nice when people are supportive, man. How could you not say
Yeah.
thank you for that, right?
I really appreciate you taking out the time to jump on Facebook Live with me for my friends and followers, and yours are just all over the place right now, and you're going to be you are an icon to me. I'm just saying you are, man. No, seriously, you are you're a genius on guitar. I mean, big time. That's just from me to you, man. I
Yeah,
really
well, thank you,
appreciate.
man. I
No, seriously,
definitely,
I know you're all humble and everything, but seriously, man, you are a badass. You are. I mean, there's no bones about it, and I appreciate you. Being who you are. I really do, and I really thank you so much for jumping on here tonight and spending some time with your people. These are your people out here, man.
Sweet, man. Well, thank you so much, dude. I appreciate it. And hey, I'll reject like some of it, but only out of just like because I need to keep my head in the right spot. But thank you, man. I totally appreciate the compliments.
Ladies and gentlemen, Joel Hoekstra, Trans Siberian, White Snake, Night Ranger, with many, many, much more accomplishments in his life. Thank you, man.
All right, thanks, dude. Appreciate it.
All right, buddy.
Cheers. Have a good night.
You too, man. Thanks.